Hello, church family. Welcome to our Christmas Sunday school lesson. It is session 4, Sought. We're doing this a little bit early, a week early, because we are not going to have Sunday school next week. Instead, we are going to do the Christmas lesson and session 3, at least online, the week before Christmas because of that, and so that we can get ahead of Christmas with the Christmas story. Again, our lesson is entitled Sought. God provides salvation to those seeking him, and we are in Matthew chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. And we want to start off by asking the question, what causes people to search for Jesus, and to what lengths might a person go to find him? Some people search for Jesus because they need help with a problem. Others have exhausted all other options for their lives. Those who have been intrigued by the story of Jesus have they've heard it and they go, I want to learn more about that. And the more they search, the more they find, and the more they fall in love with him. Over the centuries, many people have sought Jesus because they admire his teachings or his moral example. However, Jesus provides more than moral teaching. He provides salvation to all those who trust in him. And the lengths that people might have to go to, they might have to go through some terrible traumatic things, loss of family, loss of loved ones and friends, because of those loved ones and friends who don't agree with their decision to follow Jesus. So the decision to seek and to follow Jesus and to fall in love with him and find him can be they can be life-changing and life-altering besides just the salvation experience. So just some background. Again, we are in Matthew chapter 2. Matthew was written to the Hebrew audience, to the Jewish audience. Matthew was a Jew. He was a tax collector, and he wrote this, and he starts his gospel with a genealogy, with a ancestry of Jesus, going all the way back to Abraham. He wants to establish that Jesus is not only a Jew from the house of Israel, but goes all the way back to Abraham, so that he can establish that this is God's promise to Abraham, so that everything that has happened for Abraham's house through the generations has been fulfilled through Jesus. He traces it through David. He traces it back through several women, through Ruth, through Bathsheba, through several others. And he does this to establish legitimacy because of the prophecies, and because the Israelites will know these stories associated with the people in Jesus's genealogy. And so he wants to establish authority and some authenticity with Jesus's background. And again, he writes this so that the Jewish audience will know that the person that this book is about is the promised Messiah. And then we're going to be looking in chapter 2. This is right after Jesus is born, and King Herod is searching for him because he has heard that there's this baby that is born, and he's going to be called King of the Jews. So let's go ahead and start together in chapter 2, verse 1. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of King Herod, wise men from the east arrived in Jerusalem, saying, "Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we saw his star at its rising and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was deeply disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. So he assembled all the chief priests and scribes of the people and asked them where the Messiah would be born. "In Bethlehem of Judea," they told him, "because this is what was written by the prophet. And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, because out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly summoned the wise men and asked them the exact time the star appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child. When you find him, report back to me so that I too can go and worship him." After hearing the king, they went on their way, and there it was, the star they had seen at its rising. It led them until it came and stopped above the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overwhelmed with joy. Entering the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and falling to their knees, they worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And being warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their own country by another route. So we have here the Christmas story in Matthew of Herod seeking the promised Messiah, not for any reasons because he believes in this coming Messiah or because he wants anything to do with the Messiah, but because he is threatened by Jesus's coming. And we're going to read those first 3 verses again, and then we're going to answer the question, why might people today see Jesus as a threat? Let's read there in verse 1 again. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of King Herod, wise men from the east arrived in Jerusalem, saying, "Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we saw his star at its rising and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was deeply disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. Well, why was King Herod disturbed? Well, King Herod was a man who had come to power in Jerusalem and over Israel through the Maccabean revolutions against Rome, and the way he got power was by buddying up to the Roman governor. He became the governor king of Israel and was in power, and he liked his position of power. He was wealthy, he was well-to-do, he got to manage people, and he really only had to answer to the Roman governor, who was pretty hands-off with Israel because of those Maccabean revolutions I mentioned. There was so much that happened in those, and I'm not an expert on the history of those, but there was a revolution, and Rome was called in to dispel the revolution, and they had to put in a Jewish person, a Jew by birth, to kind of help ease the relations there, because the people of Israel did not want a foreigner as their leader. They wanted someone that they knew, and they knew King Herod. So King Herod was a governor king, and when a king hears about another king of the Jews being born, it threatens his throne and his title to the throne a little bit. And so he's wanting to find this baby boy. So why might people find Jesus today as a threat? Well, Jesus goes against his message goes against everything that the world says brings happiness and joy and peace. And it also is Jesus's message for forgiveness of sins is repentance, and we don't like to let go of the things that we like, and the things that we typically like are the things that are not good for us, the things that are detrimental to our health, the things that destroy relationships. Sin is what we naturally gravitate toward. And Jesus calls us out of our sin and calls us into relationship with him. And that's a threat. That's a threat to a lot of people. They like their way of life. Their way of life may be one that is dishonest, but makes them a lot of money. That person may not want to give that up just because of the gospel. But that is what the gospel is. And the gospel and Jesus are a threat to sin and to disobedience to God's word. So since Herod had no intention of letting go of his throne, his agitation turned to inquisition. He was looking for answers to where this baby was going to be born. Though he was caught off guard, it appeared he moved quickly to gather information about the Messiah. The religious leaders that told him that the prophet that wrote that it was going to be in Bethlehem where this baby was born, that was Micah 5:2. Bethlehem was a small, insignificant town and did not compare to Jerusalem's more impressive stature, but it would deliver the great king, or the Messiah, the chosen one of Israel. So let's read some more. Let's read the direction, Matthew 2, verses 4 through 8. So he assembled all the chief priests and scribes of the people and asked them where the Messiah would be born. In Bethlehem of Judea, they told him. This is Micah 5:2, because this is what is written by the prophet. And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, which is saying something because Bethlehem is small and insignificant. Because out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel. And that's why by no means that are they the least among the rulers of Judah, because the ruler, the king of Israel, will come out of Bethlehem. Then Herod secretly summoned the wise men and asked them the exact time the star appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child. When you find him, report back to me so that I too can go and worship him." So what does Jesus' fulfillment of Old Testament prophecy reveal about him? It reveals that he is the promised Messiah. It strengthens his authenticity to the claim of the throne of Israel, the throne of heaven even. But more than that, it reveals that this is the promise that God made generations ago, thousands of years ago, to Abraham, saying, "Your people will be innumerable, as many as the stars." And he also promised Abraham that there would be kings out of his bloodline, even the King of Kings. And here it is. And he promised that there would be a shoot from David in Isaiah. And here we go. Jesus is out of the root and the shoot of Jesse and David, and he is the fulfillment of this Old Testament prophecy. So let's continue reading and read the last 4 verses here, 9 through 12. After hearing the king, they went on their way, and there it was, the star they had seen at its rising. It led them until it came and stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overwhelmed with joy. Entering the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and falling to their knees, they worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And being warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their own country by another route. How would you describe the joy expressed as the wise men encountered Jesus? Well, they were hearing all these accounts, and these wise men, we've told they're kings, we've told they're magi. They were wise men. They were basically wizards. They were people who would use sorcery and the stars and divination to come up with answers for why things were the way that they were, why things happened. And they probably had heard these stories of this Messiah, this coming Messiah. I don't know if they were Jewish. I don't know if they were foreign kings, foreign magi. I just know that they were searching for something that they probably didn't believe in, because they were consulting the stars and things like that. They had heard the Old Testament prophecies, but anyway, they saw this baby boy where the star led them, and they realized that this is the Messiah. Everything that they had questioned was true. It was real. They sought him out and they found the truth. And I want you to ask yourself, what might you compare their experience? This is like they're going to search for if you've ever seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Indiana Jones movie, this is like the Indiana Jones who, he knows about the Ark. He knows the legends of the Ark, but he doesn't think it still exists. And there, at the end of the movie, they find the Ark of the Covenant, and some really gory things happen when it's opened, as we would expect a Steven Spielberg film to have. But there wasn't so as much joy as there was just amazement that this thing actually happened and it's real, and it actually exists. That's probably the same feelings and emotions that these wise men were having. Oh, everything we've heard is true. Right now, we know it for sure. This thing that has been said for centuries and millennia is real. God has kept his promise. And then they returned to their home country by a different route because they were warned in a dream about Herod. Herod didn't want to worship Jesus. Herod wanted to murder Jesus. And after this, he issues a decree where every young boy under 2 years old would be murdered in Bethlehem and in surrounding areas because he did not want an usurper. He didn't want someone to come and take his throne from him. And that's when Mary and Joseph escaped to Egypt. So this is the joy of Christmas, searching for something and finding it, and then having knowledge that God keeps his promises. And I hope that this will be encouraging to you that God keeps his promises. He keeps his promises to us through Jesus. Everything that has ever happened in the history of ever is because of Jesus. It is because it was orchestrated to bring glory to his name and to bring sinners back to reconcile sinners back to the Lord. From the day of creation, the first day of creation, this was the plan. And it's such an exciting time. Christmas time is so exciting and so great to rejoice in the Lord fulfilling his promises that he has been making for thousands and thousands of years and is fulfilling them in Jesus. So I hope this has blessed you. I hope this has encouraged you. And I hope you have a very, very Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.